Hello. Welcome to race number 2 of Series 2 of the Triathlon New Zealand Zwift Racing League. We've got a very exciting course today. Super pumped for this one, the Richmond UCI course. So this is one that quite similar actually to our Athens Olympic race where we got gold and silver, a bit of flat, but then some punchy climbs to really break up the field. This one's called our standard distance. We're following along with our national champs distances. Last week was the time trial format. Today is not time trial. There will be bunch dynamics, so it'll make for a very exciting race. Let's have a look now and head to some of the riders to watch in today's race. In the female field, which is starting at 8:15, we've got Lucy Farrell, who's been doing very well. I think she's placed around 4th on the standings at the moment. A under-19 rider out of Tauranga. And next to her there is Rebecca Clark. She did very well last week in the time trial format, and she is a prolific 70.3 and Ironman racer coached by Rob Dallymore out of Auckland. And Penny Pawson, stellar effort last week. She took the win easily. Got a bit more information on her. She's an emergency physician and a GP. Part of the New Zealand elite road team back in the day, and now she's got 2 teenage boys and she's finding herself back on Zwift and having a great time. In the men's race, James Barnes, like Penny Pawson, a dominating performance last week, took out the time trial over Hayden Wild, so that was very impressive. And he is a cyclist from Auckland. He's been doing pretty well in the Strand Tour de Rangers. Top 20 performances there. Heath Eckersley, a great supporter of this series. He's been part of both Series 1 and Series 2, doing very well in that A category. He's from Christchurch. He's done 7 Ironmans, and he is a 2-time Kona qualifier. So we'll see what he's got today on those punchy climbs. And rounding out the riders to watch is Mark Bousted, another prolific Ironman and 70.3 athlete. He's got a personal best in the Ironman of 8:16, very quick, and 70.3 best time of 3:44. He's coached by Foot Traffic as well, Rob Dallymore out there, so great to see that group performing well in these races. The course today, we have, like I said, it's called the Standard. It's the UCI Richmond course, elevation of 318 meters. So that's not a lot, but don't let it fool you because it all comes within 1/3 of the lap. So we've got the first half or 2/3 of each lap, a 2-lap course, is pretty flat. But then you have 3 attackable climbs. You can see there in that last part of the race. 2 KOMs, we've got Libby Hill and we've got 23rd Street, and then there's a long drag to the finish line. So the key here will be the feather power up. You'll want to be dropping those feathers on those first punchy climbs to try and get a breakaway, and then potentially an invisibility or another feather up that final climb will be crucial. So keep an eye out for those feather, the green little feather icon. That's what people want to be dropping today. And I guess the insight here is, could people do a Peter Sagan? So Sagan, back in 2015, this was the World Championship course, and on 23rd Street, he put in, you can see there in the picture, a massive breakaway on this cobble climb and actually went through to win the race on a huge solo breakaway. So let's see if anyone wants to reenact that today. It's going to be a pretty exciting course. Today's race is again brought to you by our event providers. We have the Tin Man Triathlon and also the Corsair Triathlon. So a little bit of a teaser here. So we'll have a look at Tin Man first, but TriNZ will be releasing in the next couple of weeks a new format to our national championships coming into the 2020-2021 season. Be a national series that will be announced with North and South Island options for our races. So let's have a look at what Paul Miller from Tauranga has to say about the Tin Man Triathlon.
Good morning, Triathletes. Paul here from Triathlon Tauranga. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you all got through lockdown. Just letting you know the Tin Man Triathlon, proudly sponsored by Mara Construction and Gen X Homes, will be returning again this year, November the 8th, 2020, right here in Pilot Bay, Mount Maunganui. Let's hope for some great weather this year. Another initiative this year will be that Triathlon Tauranga is partnering with TriNZ to help deliver their national points series for the summer of 2020-2021. It's a great idea, so keep a lookout on entries opening soon, and train hard, look after yourselves, and we'll see you in the summer.
So thanks for that, Paul Miller out of Tauranga. He's got a couple of his sons racing, I think, usually in this series, and we're just over 5 minutes till the end. We're here with the men in the start pen, and we're also following the women. Just got them charging on my iPad, so I've got to remember to go get them. They're still about 20 minutes away from their start time. So let's have a look at the Corsair Classic video. So this is run by John Newsom in the Canterbury Triathlon Club in Canterbury. Let's see what this race looks like.
Welcome along, everybody. We're in for a good day.
So there we go, another great video from one of our great events that will be coming up this season. So let's all get excited about getting back out there, back into our events. Let's support them, and let's see a great upcoming season for triathlon. So another shout out to our sponsors before we get going here. We're just under 4 minutes away from the men's race start here with race number 2 of the Triathlon New Zealand Series 2 League. We have Essex, 2XU, Manuka Performance. They'll be giving out some great prize packs, spot prizes, Suzuki, and also Domestique. So that's Barry from Domestique Trainer Hires and Rentals, and he is kindly giving away another smart trainer as a spot prize for those participating in this series. So we're starting off here following the men's Category A race. We've got about 200 in the men's race today, about 100 in the women. We do have the women starting at 8:15, so we'll cut over to there once that starts. So Richmond's an interesting course. I recce'd it during the week. It doesn't really play to my strength, so I can't say I've raced on it a huge amount. I like those long climbs, but this one, it's tricky. It's going to play into people who probably know the course really well. So you start, like I said, with about 2/3 flat, and then we go into 3 climbs, about 8% gradient, less than a kilometre though, so short climbs. They're cobbled, so what that means is the trainer resistance will come on a little bit as you go on that cobble climb. The speed comes down, and then a short little downhill, so you have a little chance to get in a super tuck, but not much before you slam into that next hill. The feather, like I said, will be absolutely crucial in today's race. We saw Lionel Sanders, big time Kona Ironman athlete, actually come through and win this against some cyclists, including Mathieu van der Poel, about 3 weeks ago. So triathletes can do well in this one, as evidenced by Lionel Sanders, but it is a tricky course. It's 2 laps today as well, so I'm quite intrigued to see how it's going to play out, because you could attack on those first climbs, but then you may just burn too many matches, and then lap 2 the others could catch you on that flat part of the course. Be interesting to see the bike setups today as well. Last week we had that time trial race, so there was no drafting. There is drafting today, so we've got you can see already in the start pens a few Tron bikes. What I was looking at if I was going to race this, it's a really decision between the wheel sets, I think. Do you go the Zip 808s, being a little bit heavier but very fast on the flat, or do you go the lighter wheel set for those punchy climbs? I think I would go the lighter wheel sets, maybe the Zip 458s or the Envy sort of 5.2s. Obviously, if you've got the Millensteins, you could get those. That wheel set I think will play better because on the flats you're likely to have a good bunch dynamic going on. So just over a minute away. This will start flat and fast as it always does on Zwift. Each lap is about 16.3 kilometers. First 2/3 of that, so I think up until 12 kilometers it's basically flat. And then from that 12 kilometer point, the next 4K is just brutal up and down climbs. So we'll see if anyone can do a Sagan today, break away on that 23rd Street climb. You've got Libby Hill before that, which is a cobbled climb, one of the longer ones, and then a long drag to the finish line. So we're just over 30 seconds away from the men's category A race. We will be following the women as well once they kick off in about 15 minutes. Here we go, 25 seconds away. Looks like a good group here, around 60 riders in Cat A, about 200 in total across categories A, B, C, and D. 13 seconds away. This will always start fast. We're probably going to be pushing up 6.5 watts per kg in that first 2 minutes. Let's have a look how our riders to watch go. James Barnes here again, big win last week. And here we go, race has started. You can see Brody Madrick here, Ryan Kazanowski, Heath Eckersley, who we featured at the start. Braden Curry, a late joiner who wasn't on our riders to watch. I had a look at the start list early this morning and I could not see Braden Curry there. So he's decided to join in at the last minute. So that's great to see. And he's off 7.5 watts per kg. Bobby Kells, 8.2 watts per kg. I'm not sure if he can hold that. He's an ex-elite rower. I actually coach Bobby Kells. So let's see how he goes. I'm not sure if he's in the same ballpark as Braden Curry, but they have started off aggressive. Mark Balstead is leading that chase back. That is a great image there following these riders. So you can see they have broken away early. Braden Curry is not messing around. He maybe watched how Lionel Sanders approached this race and he is just all in, all from the start. We've got Jackson Grammer following here, Bush from Hawke's Bay. We've got Rob Dellymore. I can't actually see James Barnes, so I'm not sure if he has made the start, which is interesting. We'll see if he's in that main pack. He might just be doing these cyclist things, saving all his energy, sitting in the pack. We've got Malcolm King here as well, so good to see Malcolm King. Ben Phillips as well. So Ben Phillips, if any of your friends are listening, I could not find a photo of you anywhere to feature you at the start of the race. So if you could email me a photo, that'd be great. I can feature you in the next race as well. Hayden Ralston in this chase back. Braden Curry is just smashing this at 5.7 watts per kg off the front. He's got that little green jersey next to his name. That means he's a professional rider on Zwift, or a professional triathlete who rides on Zwift. He is obviously at a high level because that S-Works he's riding there you can only get that from level 33 up. So he has been riding on Zwift a lot. That nice S-Works there that he's riding along, and check out what wheels he's got. It looked like he may have had the 458s on. So he is all about the climbs today, but he is time trialing off the front. He has got 10 seconds on that chase group. Jackson Grammer is chasing 6 seconds behind. Oh, we do actually have Josh Harrison here today as well. He wasn't on when I looked earlier this morning, so we've had some. Oh, and there's James Barnes as well. So we've got James Barnes, Josh Harrison chasing in that little pack at the front. But this has strung the field out. If you can see in the map in the top right corner, you can just see all those little red dots are strung out. There is no pack behind Braden Curry. They are strung out trying to catch him. They are still 9-10 seconds back. This is a danger move. They need to get on. This is demolishing the field straight off the bat. Mark Balstead, who we featured at the start, he is just about 10 seconds back. It's being led by Jackson Grammer. If anyone can tell me a bit about Jackson Grammer. And behind him, we've got Bush from TriHB, Ben Phillips, Ryan Kazanowski, so all the big players in our A category. Hayden Ralston, the very, very elite road cyclist from New Zealand. And just looking at those wheels, I don't know if they're the 458s. I can't quite tell. They may be the Millensteins actually, which are the big climbing wheel. And wow, Braden Curry has lit this up straight from the start. He's still got 8 seconds on that pack. And that pack, in Zwift, the pack dynamics always tends to catch the solo rider just because they can ride so efficiently in that pack behind that solo rider. but he looks like it is coming down, but only to 8 seconds. Generally, if you can get up to 15 seconds and you're still holding the same pace as the pack, you will be able to break away. So I'm not sure this 8 seconds is going to be enough. As we pass by a little cycling monument here on the left-hand side. So these guys are riding through a real-life place. It's called Richmond, Virginia. It's where the UCI held the 2015 World Championship cycle race. And Monument Ave is a beautiful, wide tree-lined avenue with all these monuments. We're passing another one here, you can see with Braden Currie. In Zwift, these are cyclists. In real life, they're actually Confederate, I'll say air quotes, heroes from the American Civil War time. So a little bit of controversy around those Confederate statues. And Zwift has replaced them with cyclists in game. So that's good to see. It's a great course to cycle on. Pretty beautiful. Zwift has done a nice job of upgrading this course. It was one of their first ones that they ever released. And you can see here, it is just very lovely down Monument Ave in Richmond, Virginia. We can see now Jackson Grammer, who's been leading that chase on Braden Currie for this whole time, is pushing a little bit around the same pace as Braden Currie, but that pack is pulling him in. You can just see there with that great image. A few of the Tron bikes glowing in the background there. They are pulling him in just 5 seconds back. So I'm not sure the strategy there of Braden. I don't know if he wanted to tire some legs out in that pack or if he's just tired his own legs out. So we'll see what happens when they hit the climb. They're 3.7 kilometers in. Like I said, it's mostly flat up until the 12 kilometer mark. And here we go, Jackson Grammer. He has won the Rarotonga International Triathlon and is a great cyclist. Thanks for that. I'm thinking first name Jake Jackson Grammer. Maybe let me know what his first name is. But Jackson Grammer, I've just got news, is a great cyclist, winner of the Rarotonga International Triathlon. He is leading that chase pack, but I think Braden Currie is very motivated. He's pushed those watts up to 6.3, 6.4. We've got Ben Phillips now moving on to the front. Ben Phillips riding around 6 watts per kg, and Braden has dropped to very slow here. He's barely moving 1.6 watts per kg. We hope he hasn't had a power drop out. Or maybe he's just realized they are catching, or maybe him and Ben Phillips are working together. Not sure here, but he definitely has pulled up 3 watts per kg. He's realized the chase is up. Here we go. Ben Phillips has caught, and Ben Phillips is just attacking. There we go. Interesting. Ben Phillips attacked Braden Currie over the top, went up to 8 watts per kg. Braden Currie, they may be talking, they may be messaging each other to do a 1-2 punch attack. That was really nice. So that's a very cycling-esque move. So what they do is they have a teammate usually, so they may be working together, catch that chase, attack straight through, and then just start doing some 1-2 punches over the top. And thank you, it is Jake Jackson Grammer who was leading that chase. Looks like he's settled back into the pack, so he's racing smart. Got Braden Currie here on that S-Works, and behind them, Ben Phillips and Hayden Ralston has just cut over that chase pack. So that chase pack is still not quite on. So they've got 3 riders up the front. We've got Rob Dellymore here as well. So that's great work from Rob Dellymore in the second chase pack. So it looks like riders are just breaking off that, catching up to the leaders, and then attacks happening straight away. This is a brutal start to the race. I mean, it's flat, but that has not been easy. This is not easy at all. You can see Rob Dellymore pushing 344 watts. He's there in the pink socks. We might get an eye on what kind of bike he's decided to ride today. Looks like another Specialized. We'll see what wheel set he's chosen. I am interested if people are going for the faster flat wheel choice or the hill wheel choice, and couldn't quite see on that angle what bike he's chosen today. You can see some people are on these Tron bikes. That means that they've climbed 50,000 meters in Zwift. You can see there just the rider behind Rob, so Oliver is on those Zip 458s. That is what I thought I would ride today if I was riding this course. Good for the flats, but also a light wheel set for those climbs. So it looks like we do have a split. We've got 2 chase packs here. This is the second chase pack, and they have just had a breakaway from Ryan Kazanowski here. Looks like they're trying to catch up to that Josh Harrison group with Hayden Ralston. James Barnes realized the danger. He's our winner from last week, and he has made this front group as well. So this is still strung out, which means the pace is still hot with this group leading here. And it looks like Barnes is also riding that S-Works, and I can't quite tell what wheel set he has got on, but it's definitely on a deep dish, so they have gone for those climbing wheels. So keep an eye out on these hills that come at around 12 kilometers. They're about 8%, less than a K, but very, very tough. I rode them a couple of days ago, and they're not easy. They're cobbled. Some of the trainers actually, when you ride on the cobbled climbs, will start vibrating. They'll give that real life feel. So it is definitely not an easy course once you hit those climbs. And they're just turning into Broad Street now, just approaching 7 kilometers into this race. So about 5K to go of these flat roads before we hit those 3 punchy climbs. Now, if you see the banners on the side of the road, the little support banners, you'll see a few of them will say Virginia for Lovers. So I was interested as to what this meant when I went and recce'd the course. So Virginia for Lovers is actually a slogan of that state that was developed in 1969 and won a advertising Hall of Fame for that advertising. So quite interesting there. Virginia is for lovers. So there we go. Let's see if these guys are loving this course today. It is being blown apart pretty early on here. We've got Ben Phillips chasing down a German, I see, who's come into the Tri-New Zealand League, which is great to see some international competitors. Ben Phillips, looks like he's made this lead pack, and there is not that many in there. Again, it is strung out. Let's have a look. We've got 3 seconds back, Ryan Kazanowski, 2 seconds back, Rob Dellymore, 1 second back, Jake Jackson Grammer. So there is a main pack, but it looks as though there's been a split, and these guys are popping off the back. It is so strung out. It has just gone so hot right from the start, and these guys have not gone much below 5 watts per kg since this race began. There's been attacks left, right, and center. We had Braden Curry going hard off the start, and he got up to about a 12-second lead. It's strung out the pack. There's been a lot of matches burned. You can see just from the people dropping off, there definitely has been a split there with a second group about 6 or 7 seconds back. This lead group is very select. Ben Phillips, Braden Curry, Hayden Ralston, James Barnes, our winner from last week, Josh Harrison, the professional Zwift rider, Rob Dellymore has made this group. I'm very impressed with that ride from Rob Dellymore. Jake Jackson Grammer, Ryan Kazanowski, and Bush from Hawke's Bay, and Andy Martin here looks like he's just dropped 4 seconds back and is a bit of no man's land here. I might just go grab the iPad now, so we've got the women's race up and going. The women's race being about 3 minutes away. Like we said, we've got Lucy Farrell, Penny Pawson, and Bex Clark as the ones to watch. We may have some surprise last minute entries in this one. So I'll just check that they're all good to go. There they are, lining up in the start line. So we'll switch over to them once they start, and let's have a look here at this men's race. So Braden Curry still pushing around that 5 watts per kg, around 360 watts. Wow, and is still stringing out these guys. He is running off on his own again. This has been an absolute masterclass in the start of a Zwift race. These guys are just about 3 kilometers away from hitting those 3 punchy climbs, which is where the fireworks are going to happen. So the women about 2 minutes away from starting their Category A race, and then we've got the men here 9.5 kilometers in. At 12 kilometers they will hit those 3 climbs, starting with Libby Hill, then going into 23rd Street, and then the long drag to the finish of lap 1 before they hit lap 2. I mean, these guys are on a hot pace. They're riding, Braden here is riding at about 48 kilometers an hour. This is not going to take them long to do these 2 laps. Behind them, we've got Ben Phillips, Hayden Ralston, looks like Jake Jackson Grammer's still there, but it is stringing out. Ryan Kazanowski 4 seconds back, Rob Dellymore 4 seconds back. So they need to be careful. It is maybe a bit hard to even have an attack up this hill with Braden Currie so far in front. He just might ride people off his wheels. So he has decided on an interesting strategy going into this race. It's basically a hard, straight from the gun, who can hold on will hold on, and that is about the crux of it, as we're seeing here. Just over 1 minute away from the women's race kicking off. So the women, same course, 2 laps of the Richmond UCI course. And as we follow through here, Braden Currie putting in another attack off the front. 8.8 watts per kg. He is just all about these attacks today. He is riding so aggressive on, and he's gained 4 seconds on the German who was leading. 6 seconds, 7 seconds now on Ben Phillips. James Barnes, our winner from last week, 8 seconds back. Hayden Ralston, 10 seconds back. He is absolutely demolishing this field of A category riders. So we are now 11 kilometers in. He's 1K away from starting those first climbs. You can see on the map in the top right-hand corner that you've got those 3 climbs coming up in very short succession. The last 4K of this lap is just 3 climbs, boom, boom, boom. What bombs will be dropped everywhere. People will be trying to hold on. But you can see from that look there, he is getting up to that magic 15-second mark where he may actually just take away this race right here at 11 kilometers in to a 33-kilometer race. And the women have just kicked off with their race. We'll just get a feed on them. Let's see here. All starting together. Good turnout here from the women's race. Let's see if I can make way up through the category Bs. We have, there we go. Okay, so back here with Braden Currie, the women have started their race. We'll just watch these climbs unfold as we are here at around the 12-kilometer mark, where Braden Currie will start to approach this first climb. He is now 12 seconds ahead of that main chase pack, but it looks like a rider group of 2 with Ben Phillips is chasing him down with only 6 seconds back, and Braden Currie has eased back into around 4.5 watts per kg. So we obviously went out hard, we saw him settle back down into that 3 watts per kg, and then he pushed back up and attacked around 8.5 watts per kg, and he is now just starting this first climb. It's only 640 meters long, average gradient of 6.4%. We can see he's out of the saddle here, so he's obviously pushing a low cadence of around 65 RPM here to get out of the saddle. He's up at 8 watts per kg though, so he is not messing around. He is attacking right from the base of this climb. He's going to go round this right hand corner, then we're going to hit the cobbles. That will slow his speed just slightly, but he is going at a manic pace up this first climb, Libby Hill. Let's have a look what's happening with this chase back behind. They're still around, hovering about 13 seconds, but they're getting close to that 15 seconds. You can see Braden Currie here rounding that corner. He's now on the cobbled climbs. We can see all those banners on the right, the Virginia for Lovers sign. This was the UCI 2015 Road Championship course. The others, Ben Phillips now 4 seconds behind, so he is catching on nicely. He's obviously going to attack up here. He knows if he can get with Braden Currie, the 3 of them might work together. But Braden is pushing again up to that 8 watts per kg. So he's just about up at the top of this climb now. He's going to round this right-hand corner. He'll see the banner, and then you've got a very short but very steep downhill drag. We'll go back here and see how Ben Phillips is faring. He's pulled a little bit away from the German and from the chase pack. So Ben, he needs to catch on to Braden Currie. Right now, he needs to suck in that pain, and he needs to round this and catch on to Braden Currie ASAP. Let's have a look what our winner from last week, James Barnes, has dropped that aero power up. He really must be hurting. He needs to get on the wheels of that rider in front of him, and then he needs to drop down, get in the super tuck, and try and just breathe, drop that heart rate, which is at around 177 beats per minute, and catch on to Braden Currie. He is now 15 seconds ahead though. He can just see that group right in the front. Hayden Ralston's coming through, so if he can get on that wheel, chase that little pack down, because back further, we've just demoed the field. Rob Dallymore here and about the 3rd chase back down the road. Ryan Kazanowski dropping an aero power up with Josh Harrison on his wheel. And let's have Tate, Hellier, Ecclesea, they're about 45 seconds back already. So this field has been blown apart. Hayden Ralston is attacking. He's gone into that super tuck. So if he's riding over 70 kilometers an hour, you stop pedaling on your trainer at home and you will go into a super tuck position. So these guys are split up a little bit more than I think they should be. Braden Curry here, he's only 3 seconds ahead of Ben Phillips. So good job, Ben Phillips, for catching up to Braden Curry. That will work well for you going into the second lap. They're just now hitting 23rd Street climb. This is where Peter Sagan in the 2015 World Championships did an attack, and it looks like Ben Phillips is going to pull a Peter Sagan on lap 1, pull ahead of Braden Curry. He's 2 seconds ahead. He is riding over 400 watts. He's on a nice Cervelo bike there with some climbing wheels, and let's see if he can pull this over. We've got one more climb that will take a drag up to the finish. We'll stay with these men here while they finish this last climb and head into the flats. We're just over in the women's race where it looks like Emma O'Connor, a Canadian, and Beck Clark and Lucy Farrell have formed a nice little lead pack of A group riders off the front. So with some Bs actually, so there are some Bs who are doing pretty well in that female racing as well. They've got a nice little pack of about 7 off the front. So let's go back to this men's race. They're just coming down that steep drag off 23rd Street, and they're going to hit this last climb. So keep an eye on this climb, because this is going to play a very important role in lap 2, because at the top of this third climb is the finish line in lap 2. And they'll round this right-hander here, and then they're going to just start after that a long drag up to the finish line. And it's not pleasant, I tell you, trying to sprint up that drag. So again, like I said, you want to be having a feather power up for this last climb. An aero power up will be okay, or even an invisibility would be ideal up here as well. Invisibility makes you invisible. As you can see here, Ben Phillips, he's dropping that feather power up. So interesting tactic actually. I may have, if that was me, have just saved that feather power up for the second lap, because anytime you get a power up, it's a lottery. You don't know what you're going to get. And that is a very important one. And he's already got a bit of a gap. So I'm not sure if I would have dropped that then. I might have saved that actually for the last lap. Braden Curry has now caught Ben Phillips. They're just running this right-hander, and they're heading up, as you can see, into a 8-9% climb. Big drag up to that finish line. He's riding 450 watts. Braden Curry's with him. That second group on the road with our winner from last week, James Barnes, Hayden Ralston, Jake Jackson Grammer. No, he's in the third chase pack. So the second chase pack is only 4 riders here, and they are about 7 to 10 seconds off the back. I'll be interested to know if they will be able to catch this lead of Ben Phillips and Braden Curry when they hit those flats on the road again. So as they head up, they're just about to crest this hill, and we'll just head over to the women's race. They're about 4.5 kilometers in. We're following Rebecca Clark here. She's in this lead group, which has got Emma O'Connor, Oliver, Lucy Farrell, who we featured. Whoops, that's gone. Might just reload that. Zwift crashed on the old iPad. So hopefully that'll work if we go back into there. So we'll go back here to the men's race. The women's race just crashed, unfortunately, so let's hope that we can get back in to see that women's race. Here we go. Go back in here. Fantastic. We made it back to the women's race. So here they are. They are in that lead pack. We're following Beck Clark here. So it's quite interesting, this group here. We've got Emma O'Connor. We've got Lucy Farrell, who I did feature at the start. So she's been doing very well across the series. An interesting addition here is this Olivia Barrell. She's a Canadian. I actually have raced with her a bit on Zwift myself, and she is a very, very strong cyclist, professional cyclist out of Canada. So she may light that field up a bit. We've got Britt Lytton, who is also now racing for a Zwift race team, Cryogen, and she's in this main pack as well. She hails out of Taupo, New Zealand. Lucy Farrell is leading this women's group at the moment. She may be putting in a little attack off the front here. They're still on these flat roads around Richmond. They're about 5.7 kilometers in. Like the men, they will hit those 3 climbs at 12 kilometers. So interesting here in the women's race. This main pack of lead riders is only looks like about 6 strong. Then we have Penny Lane from Foot Traffic in a chase pack, 9 seconds back, with Alice Perryman, Sarah O'Grady, Heather Neal, Nicola Sproul, good racing here from Nicola Sproul, and Sophie Lysgard in about a 3rd chase pack down the road, about 35 seconds behind. So it's still all in for this women's race to see who will dominate after those climbs, because 30 seconds, I mean, it's a big lead, but when you get those tired legs over those 3 punchy climbs, we may see some of these riders start to get reined in. With Lucy Farrell having a great race here with Anthea Oliver. She comes out of Wellington Triathlon Club. She's got the black and gold kit from Wellington Tri Club here. So she is just chasing down Lucy Farrell, and it looks as though she has caught her wheel. So good job there, Anthea. And they've got Britt Lytton, who is a very prolific racer on Zwift, doing very well in the virtual format. She has also chased them down. So they're riding at about 260 watts. Geez, that is not slowing down. And unfortunately, it looks as though, unless I'm wrong, Rebecca Clark may have had what I call a Zwift mechanical. So it doesn't look like she is in that group anymore. So she may have had a dropout. Bex, if you're watching, let me know what's happening. Does not look like she is in that main pack anymore. As we watch Britt Lytton, these guys are 7 kilometers in, so we'll shoot back to the men while they're still riding those flat roads. Ben Phillips here, leading out, still hovering around 380 watts with Braden Curry in that group. In that time we're following the women's race, they have gained 40 seconds on that chase pack with Jake Jackson-Grammer, Hayden Ralston, Rob Dellimore, Ryan Kazanowski, Josh Harrison. So this race has been blown apart by Braden Curry and Ben Phillips. So Ben Phillips is just on the wheel there of Braden Curry. Looks like they've got a German in the ranks who is pushing the pace as well. So this race has absolutely exploded from the gun. I am so in awe of how they hold these watts for this long and get this much of a gap on some world-class races behind them. So all kudos to, I'd have to say, Braden Curry is really knocking on the door of the most aggressive rider today. He has had an amazing first start to this race. They're 19 kilometers in, it's around a 33 kilometer race, so 14 kilometers give or take left to go. We've got Braden Curry here just on the wheel of Ben Phillips. Looks like Ben Phillips did have that fastest time up that KOM climb. He's got the little jersey next to him. And we'll just head over to Zwift Power and see if we can get some live results coming through of how these guys are performing in the race this morning. So bear with me, I'll just see if I can open these live results. Let's have a look. So if you head over to Zwift Power, all the riders are registered on Zwift Power, and that's where you can start seeing how all the riders are going live. You can also see all the stats afterwards, what watts per kg they held, what their age bracket is, what their top 5-minute power was, 20-minute power. Here we go, Try and Z Race League. So let's see if we can go in, have a look at some live results. So it doesn't, oh, here we go. So that German rider, interesting coming through from our live results, the German rider who is leading the men's race has actually been disqualified. So do not count that German rider at the front. They have been disqualified. Ben Phillips is sitting here about 2 seconds back. They are in this main pack with 3 riders riding at an average of 5.3 watts per kg. So far in 19.9, 20 kilometers in, 5.3 average watts per kg. That equates to a power of 418 watts Ben Phillips has averaged for this race. He's got an estimated time of finishing of just under 44 minutes. So that has been an amazing start to this race. His 15-second power was 10.3 watts per kg. That's around 800 watts. So this has been a pretty stellar start to this men's race. I'll see if I can pull up the women's Zwift power as well, just while we're watching them through this flat section, and give you some stats from the women's race. And we'll pop back over there in about a couple of kilometers as they're approaching their final climbs as well, or those 3 climbs on lap 1. So let's go through to the women's race, see if we can see the events here. 8:15, there we go. It's great being able to watch these live results coming through. Here we go. So we've actually got a couple of B category riders doing well in the female field. Anthea Oliver and Brittany Litton, followed by Lucy Farrell and Emma O'Connor. They are averaging at around 3.9 watts per kg, and they have broken. There is a group of 5 at the front who has broken away. So we'll head back through the men's race here. Braden Curry, another attack off the front. He has definitely got my most aggressive rider of the day award. He is riding at around 6 watts per kg. He's not obviously aware that that German rider has been disqualified. So probably a good carrot though for him to chase them down, but it looks like he will be coming in with the win today, potentially, but he has dropped Ben Phillips 11 seconds back. The other group is over a minute back. So this is a dominating performance from Braden Curry. He knows Zwift. He's over level 33. I'm not sure what level he is, and but he's got the great setup. He knows how to Zwift. He's chasing down that lead rider who has been DQ'd, but good job on him chasing them down. I'm not sure why they're DQ'd. Usually it's because they're putting out a power that is just not equating to what they could actually do in real life. So Zwift power is pretty good at policing riders in game and making sure we don't have any unrealistic results. So here we go. We'll cross over to the women's race. The men's race is just still around that flat section. They're a few kilometers away from that hill. They're going down Broad Street, and we'll cross here to the women's race, where they are about 700 meters away from starting those 3 brutal climbs. We've got Lucy Farrell still in this lead pack. We have Brittany Litton, who we're following here. She looks like she's on that Tron yellow bike with, oh no, that's Anthea Oliver, sorry, on the yellow bike with her Wellington colours. And we have a rider just trying to catch up, it looked like Emma O'Connor just was yo-yoing off the back there a bit, but she has managed to make it back on. Penny Lane just behind them, and then a pack that is much further back down the road, about 43 seconds. So I thought when they were about 30 seconds down the road, they may have been able to catch up, but I don't believe with a 45-second gap, they will be able to catch on to this lead pack of women. So still led by Lucy Farrell. We've got the Canadian Olivia Barrell, a very, very good Zwift racer, with Brittany Litton, who we're following here, on the very nice purple giant bike actually. But she, interesting enough, has gone the deep dish wheels. So she maybe knew that the women's race would break up a lot more on the flats and that she needed that deep dish aerodynamic. It will cost her a little bit on the hill, so they will be a bit slower on those hill climbs. We've got a nice Cervelo there, and looks like we are almost dropping off Emma O'Connor off the back here. So She really needs to stay with this pack, because if she drops off now as we approach this climb, it really might be hard for her to get back on. Emma O'Connor, she's now 2 seconds back. Anthea Oliver 1 second back. So Britt Lytton is putting on the watts here. Over 300 watts. She is just all business today. She is smashing through this first climb. We're up to 8% gradient. It's only just over a 600 meter climb. She is gapping the field, and that group behind her is amazing riders. So I'm impressed that she has managed to pull away this much on the likes of Olivia Barrell, Anthea Oliver, Lucy Farrell, Emma O'Connor. So she is absolutely drilling it up the first stages of this climb. The Canadian Barrel has managed to jump on her wheel, and here they hit the cobbles. So they're going to go around this corner. It's a few corners up to the top, only just over 600 meters. So they're probably about halfway through now, 300 meters to go, but it does kick up to that 9% as you saw there. And I'll tell you right now, it's a leg snapper of a climb. And looks like Barrel the Canadian has managed to pull ahead here of Britt Lytton out of Taupo, New Zealand. So Anthea Oliver, Lucy Farrell have stuck together, but they're 3 seconds back now. And it looks as though Emily O'Connor has actually dropped about 10 seconds, and she's at risk of getting caught by Heather Neal and Simondis, who are about 25 seconds back. Let's have a look here. Oh, she's about 5 seconds off the Canadian. She's pushing hard, but it looks like she may have gone a little bit too hard at the start, because Anthea and Lucy are chasing from the back. So that maybe was an interesting strategy from Britt. She went out hard early, and then she has actually, the two behind her have caught up a little bit, and I would anticipate on this very, very steep downhill, she may get caught as they go into that aero tuck position. Just check where the men are now. They are following Braden Curry here. He has gained 30 seconds on Ben Phillips, so that is a major blow to Ben Phillips behind him, who was doing so well, but now is about 30 seconds back. And Braden Curry here just time trialing his way to what could be a absolutely dominating performance off the front of this race. The German has been disqualified, so we won't comment on the German who's a bit up the road, but Braden Curry here riding at about 6 to 7 watts per kg, absolutely killing this race. And he is only about a kilometre away from hitting that first climb. We'll go back to the women as they are well into these 3 punchy climbs. They've just descended from the first climb. It looks like Anthea Oliver is now catching Britt Lytton. They may have dropped Lucy Farrell, who is now 3 seconds back, and we've got Emily O'Connor is around 30 seconds back. Heather Neal is minute back from this group. So Emily O'Connor unfortunately is in a bit of no woman's land behind Lucy Farrell, and if Lucy can just catch up to these two here, they will be able to ride together on the flat portions of that next lap. So here we go, Olivia Barrell, the Canadian, just rounding the climb. You can see with that cheese cutter hat on, but we have Anthea Oliver and Britt Lytton working together and crossing over the second hill here, 23rd Street. They'll go through another steep downhill, and then they'll do that long drag of a hill to round out lap number 1. So there they go, round the top. Anthea Oliver is dropping a drafting power up. Not the best time to drop that. That only works if you're actually in a draft. Not sure if she knew that, so maybe she was just trying to get rid of that power up and try and get her hands on a feather. Lucy Farrell has dropped further off the pace here. She's now 20 seconds behind these guys as they absolutely drill this downhill portion of 23rd Street. We'll hit here back to the men, see what's happening. Braden Curry still in the front. He's just about to hit climb number 1 of these 3 punchy climbs, up at around 370 watts. This has been a masterclass performance from Braden Curry. So as they approach Libby Hill, this was actually populated as a residential area back in 1796. It was the home of a lot of governors of Virginia. So beautiful area with apparently, I haven't been there, but apparently some absolutely stunning views from the houses on the top of Libby Hill. It was named after a Luther Libby, who also was a namesake of a very, very notorious prison in America. So there we go, a bit of stats about Libby Hill as we see Braden Currie approaching the base of the climb. He's dropping that feather power up. He might just be dropping that for a bit of fun, really. He's now got 45 seconds on Ben Phillips behind him and 2 minutes on the chase pack. We'll go back to this chase pack and see what's happening here. Who have we got in here? Hayden Ralston with Jake Jackson Grammar. Looks like they are riding in a nice little pack of 3 with James Barnes, our winner from last week, unfortunately in no man's land, with Rob Dallimore chasing him down. So really has been a race that's been blown apart. And we go back up the field, 2 minutes back. We've got Ben Phillips now about a minute 20 back, about 30 seconds back from Braden Currie. So he is eking into that lead of Braden Currie and only 30 seconds back. So that had gone right up to 45 seconds, but we'll see what happens when Ben Phillips starts the climb, because that's probably slowed Braden Currie down just a bit. As we can see here on the cobbles, he's about to round out the top of the first climb with Ben Phillips 27 seconds back and hot on his heels. I'm going to just pop over to the women and see what we've got going on here. We've got Britt Lytton. She has caught up to the Canadian Olivia Barrel, who's only 1 second ahead, and they are just climbing up this last hill of lap number 1. So again, this is the hill that the men's race will be approaching pretty shortly. It is a horrific drag and a bad place to be wanting to do a sprint finish if you're with a pack. So Britt Lytton riding here up at around 7% gradient. She's pushing that 250 watts of power. Anthea is just behind her, and Lucy Farrell, great job Lucy, has managed, you can just see her coming up at the back there in the, looks like the red kit. Lucy Farrell has managed to chase and catch on to Britt Lytton and Anthea Oliver here. So that's a good job by Lucy Farrell. She knew that it was important to get back in this pack, and it looks like Emma O'Connor has dropped back into the pack with Heather, Neil, and Penny Lane is just a bit behind them in a group with Angie Wall, Sarah O'Grady, Alice Perryman, and Goddison and Katrina Shaw's all kind of in a group together, hovering around that 50 seconds back mark. So these guys are just rounding out the top of this climb, and then they will head back into the flats. So let's have a look at what's happening here in the men's race. As we go, looks like Braden Currie 32 seconds ahead of Ben Phillips. So he has managed to keep that lead there. He's just hit the top of the 23rd Street climb. This is where the fireworks started in the UCI World Championships. He's about 41 minutes in, and I think it looked as though they'll be finishing this race at about the 43, 44 minute mark. He is still riding at 5 to 6 watts per kg. So he is absolutely having a blazer today. He's riding this downhill. He's going to hit that last uphill, and it's just pretty much going to be a solo effort to the finish. And there we go, coming through, just checking the Facebook. Looks as though there may have been an issue with Zwift today with a no drafting happening, which is unfortunate. I'm not sure why there was a glitch in the Zwift matrix with no drafting, but that may have been why this field got blown apart so early on. So it looks as though this is why someone like Braden Currie, with his time trialing prowess, has managed to push to the front. So it looks as though there may have been a glitch in the Zwift matrix today, and that is why this field was blown apart so early on. Unfortunate, because it would have been great to see some pack dynamics today. So we'll get in touch with Zwift and see what's happening there. I know they've got an incredible number of events and riders on the platform, and sometimes these little glitches happen. So Braden Currie coming in here into the last hill, just at the base of this last drag to the finish line, just heads up to around 3 and 4%. You can see he's jumped out of the saddle. He is just doing pretty much a victory lap on this last climb to take out this race in the race 2 of the Triathlon New Zealand series. Sponsored by Essex, 2XU, Manuka Performance, Suzuki, and Domestique Trainer and Rental. So he's rounded that right-hand bend. He's about halfway through this last climb. Beautiful aerial shot there of the streets around Richmond, tree-lined streets, nice and wide. So he'll have a nice view of the finish. You come around the bend and basically can see that finishing arch in front of you for the last 500 meters. So this has been a masterclass performance from Braden Currie. He was aggressive from the start, and it's paid off. He's managed to burn some legs behind him. Looks like Ben Phillips has still retained about that 30-second gap behind him. And then we have about 2 minutes back from there, the Jake Jackson Grammar group with Hayden Ralston. So here he goes. He'll round this left-hander and be very close to seeing that finish line banner. And here we go, aerial shot, coming through, very close to the end here. It just evens out when it gets to the top, flattens out a bit. And here we go, Braden Currie, you can see the finish arch and the flags in. That's a great shot. Just up ahead of him are those flags that indicate the finish line. He's having a little victory lap. He can just hear the applause around him, finishing on this UCI Richmond course. There we go, about 200 meters to go until he'll finish this race, still riding at around 480 watts in this race. So impressive, almost solo effort for this whole last lap when he dropped Ben Phillips about a third of the way into this second lap. And you can see the banner there. He's just about to cross. Good job, Braden Currie. That has been an amazing performance in race 2 of this Triathlon New Zealand series. So head back if we can see. Ben Phillips will be coming back. Looks like it has just gone into non-event mode. So make our way forward. So it looked like Ben Phillips came in second there. We'll cross over to Zwift Power and see those live results coming through. It looks like Zwift has had a few little glitches today. There we go, Ben Phillips coming through in second. And if we come here, we've got Hayden Ralston with Jake Jackson Grammar just behind him with 5 seconds back. And James Barnes about 30 seconds back from Hayden Ralston's group. So nice work here. We can see, there we go, we're back into event mode. We've got also Velo Barman here, not sure if he's part of the league. Hayden Ralston, Jack Jackson Grammar, just here in this blue kit with the Aquamarine bike. And James Barnes, our winner from last week, about 27 seconds back. He's in that alien kit with the green socks. And there we go with Rob Dallymore, about 30 seconds back from them with Heath Eckersley, one of the riders we featured at the start, about 12 seconds off that group. So good job today in that men's race. We're going to cross back over to the women. They are just on to lap number 2. So as it screens through my iPad, it is a little glitchy, just coming through, trying to stream 2 live feeds of Zwift is definitely heating up the computer. So bear with it as we have a look at this women's race. Looks like we have got a lead pack of 4 with Lucy Farrell leading out again, with Britt Lytton here, Olivia Barrell the Canadian, and Anthea Oliver, and they're being chased back. Looks like Emily O'Connor was swallowed up by that chase pack, who are about 50 seconds back here. So women's race here led by Britt Lytton. Lucy Farrell just tucked in behind her. We'll follow Lucy Farrell for a little bit with Anthea Oliver from Wellington. So there's a nice little group of 4 leading out in this pack. They just looks like they're just heading through a Monument Ave. Like I said, the beautiful monuments of the cyclists. You can just see from that angle a rider holding their bike above their head, and very, very wide, nicely paved streets. Looks like an area I wouldn't mind going to and having a bit of a bike race. Lucy Farrell here is on a very basic Zwift setup, which is maybe why she got dropped on those climbs. She's riding a little bit of a heavy bike and wheels setup today, so she might want to go into a garage and use some of those Zwift drops to upgrade her bike and wheel setup, just so that she can ride those hills a little bit quicker. And you can see Anthea Oliver there. She is on, I think, the Tron bike there. So following Lucy Farrell, just looked like someone dropped out there for a sec. Actually not, might look like there's been a little attack off the front. Yes, there has. It looks like Britt Lytton has had enough of being in this pack, and she is pushed off the front. She is now gaining, she's 6 seconds ahead of Lucy Farrell, so she is putting in a nice attack here, riding at around 220 watts, about 3.3 watts per kg. So Lucy has realized the danger of this attack, and she has upped it to about 4 watts per kg. Lucy Farrell is on the hunt onto Britt Lytton's wheel. We've got Anthea Oliver and Olivia Barrell, the Canadian, in that chase pack behind them, but Britt Lytton here, amazing. She's pushed up to around 6 seconds ahead of this chasing group. So great job there from Britt Lytton, coming out of Taupo, New Zealand. She is very, very clued up on Zwift racing and knows how to do it. So she is realizing now she doesn't want to wait for the hills. I think she realized in that first lap that the Canadian Olivia Barrell just had a bit more on the hills than she did. So it looks like she wants to gap her as quickly as possible. So Britt Lytton here, no, it looks like Anthea Oliver has actually pulled ahead of that chase pack, and she is hunting her down. This is a great little battle between the two of these. So let's have a look while we're watching them go down Monument Street here and see what some of their Zwift power updates are. So following in live, Britt Lytton, she has been averaging about 3.7 watts per kg compared to Lucy Farrell's 4.6 watts per kg. So it's obviously a little bit of a difference in weight there. So that plays well to Lucy Farrell on the hills, who have that weight advantage, even though she is riding that heavier bike setup. The PB here, so the 15-second watts for Brittany was about 7.7 watts per kg. The group on average is averaging about 3.8 to 4 watts per kg. So Britt Lytton leading out this group, but she has been caught by Anthea Oliver. They're 22 kilometers into this 33-kilometer race, so just over 10 kilometers to go, and they're still a wee way away from those 3 decisive hills that will be coming up shortly. So we'll pop over and just see a final call on the men's race. Braden Curry leading that. Ben Phillips in second from the Tri-NZ League. He averaged 5.2 watts per kg. That's very, very impressive, and looks like Jake Jackson Grammer has rounded out that A-plus podium 2 minutes back from Braden Curry, and he was riding about 5.1 watts per kg. James Barnes, he has pulled into fourth with Reese Tate, Graham Bush, Rob Dallymore, Heath Eckersley, Tyrone Hellier, and Gareth Berry rounding out. Looks like Bobby Cowles and John Newsom have a nice little battle going on there, and they are in that A category, so that will be for the podium in that men's race. So as we go back here to the women, we're watching Britt Lytton. Anthea Oliver has caught her up, and Lucy Farrell is 2 seconds off the pace now, but riding at around that 4.5 watts per kg. Probably good to know now that Lucy Farrell is not on a smart trainer, so although she may podium in game, it won't be reflected as a podium in the league results, just because the non-smart trainer setup can be a little janky with their power data that comes out. So just as a heads up there, but Lucy Farrell is a very impressive athlete, under 19, and doing extremely well to stay up with Anthea Oliver and Olivia Barrell and Britt Lytton, who we're following here on this purple giant bike. So she has actually been passed here by Anthea and Olivia Barrell. So Anthea is in the Wellington kit with the Tron bike, and they should not let Olivia Barrell go here. So let's see what kind of response they have here to Olivia going off the front, about 1 second ahead now of this chase group. So We've got Lytton, Farrell, Oliver. Then behind them, about a minute back, there is a group of three, Heather Neal, Nan Baker, and Emily O'Connor. And behind them, another minute, is a big chase pack of about 4, 5, 6 riders back there in the third chase pack on the road. Britt Lytton is not messing around. She does not like it when someone attacks off the front, and she has responded in part and has started racing ahead of Anthea, and Lucy Farrell again is yo-yoing a little bit off the back here, about 2 seconds back. You can just see her fourth wheel here with Britt Lytton pushing this pace again. The thing about Britt that I've realized, I've ridden with her a couple of times on Zwift, is she has an amazing raw power. So when she hits time trials or flat areas of the road like this, she tends to do very well. But when she hits the hills, she can get passed by those riders behind who are more of the hill climbing specialists. I would probably put Lucy Farrell into that group. So we'll see what happens when we hit these 3 hills. They're just about to hit that long downhill drag before they hit the 3 decisive climbs to the finish line. And unlike the men's race, where this was already blown apart with Braden Curry off the front, it looks as though this women's race is going to come down to the line. If this was me sitting in here, I'd be a little bit nervous, because I know that the Canadian does climb hills very well. This is the TriNZ league though, so she is not part of the league, and therefore the other riders might just be okay with, letting her go and taking that glory in the TriNZ league. Britt Lytton is pulling away again, just a second ahead of the 3 behind her, and they have put in a huge dent into that chasing pack with Nan Baker, Heather O'Neill, and Emma O'Connor. So let's have a look. Where are we? They've just ended that downhill, so they're on that -5%, so they can take a bit of recovery here. As we can see, Britt Lytton has pulled ahead again, about 2 seconds ahead of those riders behind her. So I wonder if this is an attack. She's only riding at about 3 watts per kg, so I don't think it's a motivated attack as yet. Just seeing popping up on the screen there a couple of our D riders, Mel Saltiel and Dory Gilming. So I hope they're having a good day out there on the roads of Richmond. We're now into this flat kind of U-turn area where they head down along by the canals in Richmond, and then they will hit those 3 climbs. So we're about, I would give or take, 800 meters to 1 kilometer away from hitting the Libby Hill climb. Then they'll hit 23rd Street, and then they'll hit that long drag to the finish. So Britt Lytton here, she is about 2 seconds ahead of that chasing group of Anthea Oliver. So I believe, if I look at the results of the league standings last week, I think those 2 are actually B category riders. Yes, and Anthea Oliver is sitting on 99 points with Brittany Lytton on 100 points. But what we may see today is these guys may end up being pushed up to category A from these performances. And that would be good to see, actually. So these guys will get pushed up, and they will then start in the category A league. So great seeing our people move up categories. It's good that they're getting fitter on Zwift and they're able to push those higher numbers, but we'll see what happens after the race with their numbers and whether they will get pushed up to that category A position. So here they go. They're just down here by the canals around Richmond. Britt Lytton has got that group chasing behind. They're about 2 seconds back. So she is putting in a huge effort here, around just under 300 watts. But this looks like a definite motivated attack. She went up there to 5 watts per kg. She's hovering around 280 watts. She has now extended that lead to 3-4 seconds ahead of that chase pack, who need to watch out because she can definitely ride on these flats, and she may get enough of a lead and be motivated enough that she will hit those hills ahead of those riders behind her and be able to pull that lead ahead on the downhills. So we're just about 500 meters away from the base of Libby Hill climb, and you can see just in the distance, great camera angle there, they're 5 seconds back. Anthea has now dropped to 6 seconds back. Brittany is riding at around 3.5 to 4 watts per kg. Lucy Farrell, though, is hitting around 4.5, so they are just pushing more watts per kg, but I know Brittany can push out that raw power that is just higher than a lot of people behind her. And I think the strategy she'll be going with at the moment is to pull away enough of a lead that she can just keep the lead on the hills, because we saw in lap 1 she did get caught and she went a bit too hard on the base of the climb, and she did get caught on the top, and then on that second climb she got caught by the remaining of the chasers. So she's pulling up to 8 seconds ahead of those behind her. We know the magic number is about 15 seconds. A 15-second break will usually stay away. So let's have a look at what Brittany is going to do. She'll round this hairpin left-hander, then she has about 200 meters till she hits the base of Libby Hill Climb, the cobbled climb, the beautiful area of Richmond, Virginia. Richmond is for lovers, as they say in their slogan, came up in 1969. Is Brittany Litton going to love this hill? Is she going to be able to stay ahead of Lucy Farrell, Olivia Barrow from Canada, and Anthea Oliver, who is only 1 point behind her in the league standings? Anthea must be motivated. She must try and stick with this group. She must try to catch up to Britt Litton so that she can retain a top position in those league standings. Here they go, approaching the base of this climb. They're just starting to kick up. You'll see that right hand little glowing red mark on the road. That means she has hit the base of the KOM proper. And here she goes. Britt Litton hitting the base of this climb. She's up around 260 watts per kg. We've got Olivia Barrow from Canada chasing her down, who has broken away from Lucy Farrell and Anthea Oliver, who is in this chasing group. So here we go, 80 RPM. She is still keeping up a great cadence, actually. We saw Braden Curry, he was around the 66 RPM. So she's keeping a good cadence, keeping that power high, but we do have the Canadian chasing her down, and Lucy Farrell here is only 4 seconds back, so I'm not sure Britt's strategy of trying to attack on the flats will be enough to keep this chasing group behind. Anthea Oliver, you can just see in the back, there are the 3 of them behind Britt Litton, and they are only 2 seconds back now, 5 seconds back to Lucy Farrell, and around 8 seconds back to Anthea Oliver. Britt is up over 300 watts there for a bit. She's up to this cobbled part. It's pushed up there to 17%. So this is very, very tough riding. You can just see how slow that looks. And there we go. Olivia Barrow has dropped a feather power up. That is a perfect use of that power up. So she knows how to Zwift. She's caught on, and she may just absolutely attack through. There we go. So she's been passed by the Canadian. We'll keep our eyes on the New Zealanders. That's a great aerial shot to show Lucy Farrell is just about there. If Lucy Farrell can just catch up before that downhill. And then we have Anthea Oliver has dropped now 10 seconds back from Britt Litton, who we're following here, leading out this Tri-NZ league here. We do have a Canadian in front of them who isn't part of the league, but she will be a good carrot for Britt Litton to chase if she can get back onto her wheel. Lucy Farrell only 4 seconds back. You can see her just coming around that corner as Britt Litton crosses over that banner of the Libby Hill QOM. So good job, Britt Litton there. She hasn't hemorrhaged too much time. She's still about 6 seconds back. Interesting, she didn't use any power-ups, so maybe she doesn't have one, or maybe she's saving that feather until the end. So they are Lucy Farrell 7 seconds back, Anthea Oliver 19 seconds back, although she will catch up some on the downhill. So they've just gone by first hill of these 3, the last hill being the finish line. So that was Libby Hill, the beautiful area with these great views from these red brick houses up here, home to a lot of the governors around Virginia. And we'll descend Libby Hill, a very hard descent, hard and fast descent, and then we will hit the 23rd Street climb next, which is only 300 meters long, but it has an average gradient of 10%. So it is a brutal fast climb. Looks like the Canadian has just extended that lead 9 and 10 seconds out from Britt Litton, and we can just see some of our D category riders up the road. We've got Leah Davidson from Christchurch, Monique Spedding. We've got Samantha Frost, actually. You can see they're age 8. So she is, they're probably just coming into the end of their first lap. So shout out to Samantha Frost. She has a form of arthritis that makes it very hard for her to do physical exercise, but she's on Zwift. She's a huge fan. She has also managed to go up Alp de Zwift, which not many of us have, and she did that the other weekend, and that was a hugely impressive feat from Samantha Frost. So great to see her out racing in Category D as well. As we follow Brittany Litton, she's at the 10% part of this climb. She's pulled in a little bit on Olivia Barrel, the Canadian who's leading out this women's race. Lucy Farrell 3 seconds back, with Anthea now only 6 seconds back, so they did catch up on that down. But I think Brittany Litton may actually take this out, because she'll head into a downhill here, which will get a lot of time gained while Lucy is still climbing the hill. And then it looks as though Anthea may have just dropped too much time there. She's now 16 seconds back. That time will go massively up. And actually, if we follow back into a bit further back in that women's field, it looks like Nan Baker has made a breakaway on Heather Neal. So Nan Baker will be rounding out a podium today with Heather Neal behind her. So we see Britt Litton here into the super tuck. She's on a -7% grade, great efficiency. She can sit there, she can have a breather while her avatar just boosts downhill, and she is gaining massive time on those behind her. She does have a Canadian rider in front who isn't part of the league, so we won't commentate too much on the Canadian in front, but we do have Britt Litton here. Coming in, looks like she'll be the first in the Triathlon New Zealand League. Lucy Farrell about 14 seconds back now, and she's riding at about 4.8, 4.9 watts per kg. So Lucy Farrell is really on the hunt and on the chase behind Brittany Litton. 30 seconds back, Anthea Oliver. So it looks like that may be our podium today in the Triathlon New Zealand League. We've got Nan Baker, who has pulled away from Heather Neal, Emma O'Connor, and Angie Wall with Penny Lane behind them. So great women's field today. I think we had around 80 riders across all the 4 categories, and Britt here has had an amazing race. She's been knocking on the door of Category A, so we'll see if this race pushes her up into that Category A position. She is now just coming into this last climb. She's up at around the 5% gradient. She's got a good gap on Lucy Farrell, but Lucy is riding very high watts, and she is a light rider, being an under 19. You can just see her actually in the background, so that might be the carrot that Lucy Farrell needs when she can see Brittany Litton on these long straights. She can just see her following Lucy Farrell now. She can see Brittany Litton right ahead, and she's knocked down that gap to 5 seconds, 4 seconds. Lucy Farrell, can she do it? She's pushed up to that 5.3, 5.4 watts per kg. She's 3 seconds back. She may do this 2 seconds back. I think it was enough that she could see Brittany Litton right in front of her, and she is actually going to catch. This is an amazing ride from Lucy Farrell. 5.5 watts per kg, just coming up around Brittany Litton. So that has been an amazing pass made there by Lucy Farrell. Fantastic climbing. So I know that she won our Smart Trainer rental in the last season, so hopefully she can get hooked up with a Smart Trainer for the rest of the series, because it would be great to see her listed on the podium result. But unfortunately, not being on a Smart Trainer, as per the rules, she will be placed in 4th position. But this has been an amazing race. Her heart rate's up around that 170 watts. So she has just made the pass on Brittany Litton. You can see Brittany there, who has now dropped to that 4 watts per kg. She may just be struggling as this race comes to a close. This last hill, it's the longer of the 3 climbs, and it is brutal to finish a race here. Lucy, you can see just from this angle, she's got those pink flags coming up on the right hand side, and that signifies the finish area of this race. So she has now gained 5-6 seconds on Brittany Litton, who hopefully will be able to hold off and hold on to that 2nd place position, because Anthea Oliver is on the chase as well. So Lucy Farrell here, great race. We featured her as one of our riders to watch at the start of this race. She's on the vintage Zwift setup, so she's been riding a heavier bike and wheel setup today, and has still managed to have a dominating performance. She has finished 2nd on the road with a Canadian out in front, but now is just coming through to take out in this race the lead position ahead of Brittany Litton, who is just behind her. There she goes, Lucy Farrell, just crossing that finish line We'll go back to Brittany Litton. I've got Anthea Oliver here. Brittany has managed to stay ahead of Anthea, about 17 seconds ahead, and it looks as though Anthea will be after that. She will cross the finish line relatively shortly. I just was interested, if I could, to get up to that little battle that was happening between Nan Baker here and Heather Neal. So looks like Nan Baker has managed to stay in front of Heather Neal. That was a good race. You just see Heather there in the background. So good job, Nan Baker. She has pulled ahead of Heather Neal, and great job everyone in the racing today. It's been good to see you take on the Richmond UCI course, and keep an eye on what we've got coming up next week. We've got 4 more races in the series. They'll be following our national championship formats, and keep an eye on Try and Z Facebook page for an announcement of our 2020-2021 national championships coming up over the next couple of weeks. Have a great day.